Good morning. Happy Sunday. Thanks for joining us here on KXAN Live. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and with me today for our first warning weather Q&A is meteorologist Rich Segal. Rich, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning. A little tired today. Even though I got a good night's sleep, today I had a little bit of difficulty trying to stay awake when the alarm went off, but you struggle through it.
Yeah, we all did this morning.
Exactly.
This morning we woke up to a few beams of sunlight in between all the clouds in Austin. What is the rest of today looking like?
Clouds will be gone. We'll be sunny again today. Good news, bad news. A lot of people like the sunshine, but as Jayla is prone to tell you, Rich Segal loves when it rains. We don't have any rain in the forecast going out until at least Friday. So we're going to continue to be dry. And the big weather feature today is going to be a combination of the strong wind and the lower humidity leading to the fire weather danger that we have across a good chunk of the area.
Yeah, we're back to that fire weather red flag warning.
We have a red flag warning for 7 counties, including Travis. And so, yes, Travis, Hayes, Williamson, and then in the Hill Country, Blanco, Burnett, Llano, and Gillespie.
Well, let's kick it off with our questions. I know one of our questions has to do with rain chances, but that's towards the end of our list. But the first one is, what are a few pieces of weather safety knowledge not enough people know about?
Well, the first answer that I have is one that I stole from Kristen, because I heard her talking to one of the classes that came in to tour our studio one day, and she said, you'll want to wear a helmet. If there is a storm warning or a tornado warning especially, you'll want to wear a helmet to protect your head. And we're talking about any type of helmet, a bicycle helmet, a football helmet. It protects you from flying debris. When I used to give school visits, or when I used to do school visits back in my heyday, we would always tell people that you want to make yourself as small a target as possible, and you'll want to cover your head with your hands and your arms. It never occurred to us to include wearing a helmet, and that makes perfect sense. She and I were talking the other day, and I said, that's absolutely one of the smartest things I've ever heard. And she goes, it can be any type of helmet, but something that will protect your head and your face. She was talking, I think, about football helmets that the linemen wear that have those nice face masks. So that's one. The other one is, I came up with 2. There are many more. It says avoid water during a thunderstorm, and we're talking about doing dishes, taking a bath, or taking a shower. Well, a lot of people know that, but what they may not know is that plumbing conducts electricity. Lightning can travel through the plumbing made of metal. Metal is the conductor, and you can have lightning coming through the piping. So you'll want to avoid washing using the bathroom to shower or bathe. You'll want to avoid that during a thunderstorm. So those are 2 of the tips that we have for you this morning.
So those are just some weather-related safety tips. I didn't know about the helmet for sure, or the water during the thunderstorm.
That helmet idea was just sensational, and the kids loved it. When she said that, it's like, that makes perfect sense. And so if it makes perfect sense to children, then it should make perfect sense to adults as well.
That is true. And our second question for you this morning is, what condition is needed for thundersnow? First of all, what is thundersnow?
Thundersnow happens when there is a snowstorm and you hear thunder or you can see lightning. And you think, well, you only see that when it's raining. But it can also happen during a snowstorm. And what it is rising warm air rises, meets the cooler air up top, and that is what forms the cloud. The ice crystals collide with the cloud to create a separation of electric charge. Think of what happens when I wish I had one here, a balloon, and you rub it in your hair, and you see the static that is built from that, and those are separating electric charges. As the static builds, the lightning is discharged. And when the lightning is discharged, the heat from that lightning is what creates the thunder. And during a snowstorm, that is likely to happen. So that's how thunderstorm, a thundersnow happens. It's really a cool thing. We'll see that on the radar sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, it's snowing, but I see lightning. Well, that's what it is.
Thundersnow.
Thundersnow.
We have a viewer, Jack Morris, who just asked if it's like the song Thunderstruck.
I'm going to laugh at that because later on this afternoon when I am over at UT announcing their softball game today against Tennessee,
Oh, how fun.
they will play during the inning break. They'll play that song. It's like, oh, now I'm going to start laughing when I hear that. Thank you,
We're
sir.
going to be like, what are you laughing about?
Don't take much.
Our third question is wind shears. How often do they happen in Austin, Texas? And what are they?
Wind shear is a phenomena where the wind speed or the direction change with height. The further up you go during a storm event. The answer is it can happen any time that there is a thunderstorm or within the area. So this is associated with storm activity. Crucial in tornado formation, you have a different direction at various heights in the atmosphere, and sometimes if you get that, you can sometimes get a tornado to form, but they won't happen on a day like today because the sky is clear, so we don't have to worry about that. But when we have thunderstorms, and especially along a frontal boundary, there is the potential that wind shear could occur. The same thing, we look at wind shear when we're talking about hurricanes too, because wind shear can cause hurricanes to not form as much. There's not as much formation with hurricanes when there's a good deal of wind shear to deal with. We had some great questions, by the way, including the next one.
Yeah, these questions are probably my favorite by far, but this next one is pretty funny. The next question is, will it rain on my birthday?
So when we put out the call for questions, this one happens pretty often. Will it rain on my birthday? Well, the answer is if we know when your birthday is, we can tell you. If we don't know when your birthday is, we can't tell you. But what I'll do is I will give you the best advice that my mother gave me when it rained one year on my birthday. And she said, well, that's a sign of good luck that you're going to have a good year. Aww. So take that what you will. And so if it rains, it's a good sign. And if it doesn't rain, then you can have your birthday party outdoors. That's the best answer.
Have it outdoors still.
Yeah, that's the best answer I can give you. But I will be very happy. We're always happy to say, hey, Rich, can you tell me my birthday is Saturday? What's the weather going to be like? We'll give you that answer. But when it's a blanket question like, will it rain on my birthday? It's like, well, when is your birthday? And we'll tell you when we know when it is.
Provide some context in those questions.
So I want to thank everyone for the questions that they sent. We put out a call for questions on Tuesday to report it, REPORITIT, at KXAN.com. And we got some great questions. I have enough for the next 2 weeks.
Ooh, perfect.
But I'll take more. The more, the merrier.
The more, the merrier. The more questions we can do, the more things we have to talk about, right?
Exactly.
So you have this article. It's published on our website. I can pull it up. I really wanted to ask you, what is this article about? All
right. So we partner, so to speak, with Climate Central. Climate Central is a group of climatologists who study our climate and who make predictions on upcoming weather events based on climate change. Some people believe in climate change and some people don't, and that's fine. Both camps have their opinions. And so we like to consider ourselves to be the climate change experts here. And we are not as involved in stories like this as the climatologists are for Climate Central. They have studied various aspects of weather and climate from 1970 all the way to the present time. They determined in this particular analysis, they studied 25 national parks and came up with this theory that there will be more extreme heat events going forward due to climate change going out to the year 2050. None of the parks, by the way, were in Texas. As far as I know, the closest one was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And you see right there on that particular graphic that there were over 331 million people that visited parks. I have to fix that graphic. The 331 million people visited parks in 2024, which is a 2% increase from 2023, and set a record too, by the way.
Wow.
Parks are set aside for conservation, recreation, and preservation, but they're predicting now that there will be warming each year unless something happens, in large measure due to climate change. And I love reading the studies that they come out with. Sometimes I scratch my head thinking, oh, could this really be possible? But they did Joshua Tree in California. They did a couple in Utah, but there were 25 parks that they studied. And I think one of those two that you just scrolled by, that's Joshua Tree. And the one right above that, Yosemite, is expected to have the worst, going from, you see 4 squares that are colored in, from 1979 to 2012, 26. So that is a 6.5% increase. Wow. If I did my math. Well, no, it's more than that. It's 7 times from the 1979 to 2012 number to 6.5 times their prediction for 2050.
Wow. So these parks are going to be feeling a lot warmer this year.
Yes, and so this is going to cause some of the park hours maybe to be manipulated so that people aren't there during the extreme heat of the day. Mm-hmm. Some of these thresholds even went over 100 degrees, including the one at Joshua Tree. So I found this really interesting, and and one that is worth sharing with our viewers and readers. And so this is one of the things that we talked about during when I wrote this yesterday.
Yeah, and if anyone is looking to go visit these parks this summer, it's important to remember to be prepared, take that water, sunscreen, wear cool clothes.
Exactly.
We don't want anything to happen.
We really don't. You have to practice. You have to be smart, and the parks have their own set of rules and their set of recommendations on how people can best protect themselves. One of the things that the study released too was that, given what's been going on, what's been happening in our changing climate, future visitors, and we're talking about people visiting parks in years to come, may find these parks a little different than where they are right now, and that's kind of a scary thing.
That is very scary.
I was surprised that they didn't have anything on Big Bend National Park, because that's one of the ones that's visited frequently here in our state. But they did not have any of the Texas parks in that study.
Interesting. Well, before we head out, can you give us a look at what the weather is going to look like for the rest of today?
Sunny, 92 for the high this afternoon between 4 and 5 o'clock. Wind gusts 25 to 30, perhaps as high as 35. Especially from noon to 6. There is a red flag warning for Travis, Hayes, Williamson, Burnett, Blanco, Llano, and Gillespie counties from 1 o'clock until 9 o'clock for wind gusts up to 30 to 35, and humidity that will forecast to lower into some high single digits to teens. That's very dry air. We don't need very dry air anymore. We need a lot of moisture. We need to have clouds. We need to have rain. And we need a good deal of it, as everybody knows. The drought monitor that was released this past Thursday showed no change from the previous drought. The drought is extreme to exceptional from I-30, essentially from I-35, from I-35 westward.
Okay. So with that red flag warning, that means be careful. Be more vigilant than you normally are.
No outdoor burning. Because any fire that starts will have a tendency with the strong wind gusts to spread rapidly, and we don't want anybody contributing to that.
Yeah. Remember not to throw any cigarette butts. Take those chains off your cars.
Yes.
All that good stuff.
I bristle when I see a cigarette discard. It's like, oh my God, you're using this as your own trash can.
And you're risking everybody else's lives.
That's right.
Yep. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Rich. It was a pleasure to have you again
this
Sunday.
Good to be with you.
We're excited to see what questions we get next week.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us.